What's good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. You won't believe this headline. It's obviously clickbait. Gaslighting is a real term, and this is what it is. When someone from the Atlantic says, headline, this is a real headline, let's declare a pandemic amnesty. We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about this thing that we went through over the last couple years, still going through. Emily Oster wrote this. Leading into the midterms, some people are a little worried about what might happen with the energy in the country about, wait a second, what did we do in response to this thing? Wait a second, what's still happening because of the response to this thing? Things I can't talk about on YouTube. This article starts out talking about April of 2020, telling the story. My family took an enormous number of hikes. We both wore these muzzles that I had made myself. We had a family hand signal, which the person in front would use if someone was approaching on the trail, and we needed to put on those muzzles. They're outside hiking, trying to get fresh air. Once when another child got too close to my then 4-year-old son on a bridge, he yelled at her social distancing. These people were insane. These people are still insane. If you weren't insane, you would acknowledge and apologize for what you were, and then dig into why were you that way before you talk about any amnesty. We haven't even talked about the situation. Those precautions, see, these precautions were totally misguided. This is her opinion, not mine. In April, no one got the thing from passing someone else hiking. Outdoor transmission was vanishingly rare. Our muzzles, made out of old bandanas, wouldn't have done anything anyway. The thing is, we didn't know. Okay. Who told you? Who told you to do that then? I've been reflecting on this lack of knowledge, this what I would refer to as ignorance, thanks to a class I'm teaching at Brown University. We've spent several lectures reliving the first year of the pandemic, discussing the many important choices we had to make under conditions of tremendous uncertainty. This is Emily writing the article. I'm going to go through a little bit this here and give you my takeaway. Some of the choices turned out better than others. To take an example close to my own work, there is an emerging, if not universal, consensus that schools in the U.S. were closed for too long. The health risks of in-school spread were relatively low, whereas the cost to students' well-being and educational progress were high. There were people who, at the time, were talking about this. The latest figures on learning loss are alarming. They're rewriting history right before our very eyes. Now they can say, well, we acknowledged, we apologized. No, we didn't. We need to talk about what happened, because this all happened when there was a certain person at president, and the certain person at president was more along that narrative, but the people who are working for him were not. And when you look at this article, you search on the word for Don Dada, you won't find it. If you really were concerned about the bad response here, then you would really be going after those who led it. The Fuchis of the world. Why aren't you asking, well, where was he? What was he doing? One thing you won't find in this article is mention to Fuchi. So that we can't get away from this until you start talking about what we need to talk about. And don't worry, that red tsunami is coming, and we're going to talk about it. We better talk about it. When the things came out that you called a word that started with the letter V, but they're not that traditionally. You changed the definition. Not you, Emily, but you believed in this new definition. I read a children's book with my child from I think it's 2018. It gives you the definition of the word that starts with V, and it ain't what we talking about now. Never acknowledged in this article. Obviously, some people intended to mislead, but remember when the public health community had to spend a lot of time and resources urging Americans not to inject themselves with bleach. So not only did they not talk about, well, MAGA, some people in MAGA or independence or the Great Barrington debate, these people were right. Instead, they're still trying to take pot shots. I'm not going to read any more of this. You can, it's Atlantic. You can open up a incognito browser if you have done your limit of articles and take a look at it. Here's my takeaway. It's not the number one issue. The number one issue is protection in a digital environment. We're seeing what happened with Paulie P, and now they're trying to smear everyone who questions the narrative, anyone who criticizes Nancy P. They basically are doing that. So the pandemic's not number one. The number one is the First Amendment in the digital world, however that needs to be done. If it's an amendment, I don't know if it's a law. I don't know. I'm not sure how, but that has to be addressed. The number two thing is these emergency orders. That's how it happened. Trump, others, they do these emergency orders, and then the administrative state underneath them runs it, and they don't know what's going on. They're just going with the flow. The pandemic's the number two thing. We got a lot to deal with. We got the borders as well, which some argue is the number one, and it's hard to argue that. I don't think it is. It's up there. So look at those top three things. And then I didn't even talk about the Federal Reserve. But that's unreal. That's really the number one, but that's unrealistic what are you going to do? But I'm going to tell you this kind of stuff, talking about amnesty and what you're going to do with amnesty. I'm not here for it. Let me know what you think, because I'm not here for it. Give me a holla at the website, middlemaga.com. And I am going to be doing a lot. Well, actually, let me talk about locals here real quick. I'm doing a lot more on locals. Locals is free. The locals site is free. Let me share that with you while I'm doing this here. Thanks for hanging out. And with locals, what I'm doing right now is more prep. So I'm clipping articles. I'm going to use locals more and try to leverage it more. You do have to sign up for an account, but it's free. And locals is kind of integrated with Rumble. It will be more in the future. I highly recommend getting over there. I have videos that now are getting more views on Twitter, and on Rumble getting more views than they used to. So it's you can see it rising. So I've got stuff about Ukraine. Liz Truss's personal phone was hacked by the Kremlin. By the Daily Mail talked about that. Twitter news, Elon posted a poll asking about bringing back Vine. Vine that never should have left. Vine that was TikTok before it was TikTok. Bring back Vine, 70% says yes. So I'm just putting stuff like this on there. I was on with Ray last night, friend of the show. Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro couldn't pull it off. Now, I'm not fully versed in their politics, but he was the candidate that I would probably align with more. He said more base things. Not that I know everything he believes, but he was the populist candidate. Populist loss in Brazil. It was a close election though. Hammergate, we got pictures here, memes. So check it out. That's the local site. So I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'll put the link to the local site in the description. Let me know what you think about this. Let's go back to the headline here. They went to the headline of, let's give each other amnesty for what we said during the pandemic. No, actually, I got a lot of energy about it. Let me know what you think. Take care.